In my previous life, I treated my girlfriend sincerely, but she remained steadfast with her first love, and together they conspired to ruin my family and destroy our lives. This lifetime, I will make her taste the feeling of being betrayed by the one she loves. What does a person think about just before dying? In truth, there aren't any concrete thoughts. The only emotion filling my mind then was regret. Bitter regret for past mistakes, a remorse and hatred that ate into the bones. If I could start over, I would make that pair of lovers Ryan Smith and Sophia Taylor pay. I was in love with Sophia Taylor for 7 years. I treated her with all my heart, and in my mind she had long been my one and only wife. Her family was poor. I supported her through her studies, got her a job at Johnson Corporation, and never failed to make holidays romantic or to give flowers, jewelry, and bags. She said she had no sense of security, so I gave her a house and a car as her private property to bolster her confidence. I liked her and always cared for her. When her friends were in trouble, I stepped in to help. From beginning to end, I believed I had done nothing to wrong her. Yet on the eve of the wedding, she stabbed me in the back and caused the Johnson family to be ruined. Johnson Corporation went bankrupt, my father passed away, and my mother couldn't bear the shock and followed him. Almost overnight, I lost everything. It was only later that I realized that both I and the Johnson family behind me were merely parts of her and her first love's rocky, yet romantic love story. Her first boyfriend, Ryan Smith, was the Smith family's illegitimate son, but he grew up drifting about and endured many hardships. Her family was poor, yet she always kept a passionate outlook on life. The two met in humble circumstances, supporting and accompanying each other, becoming each other's salvation. During Ryan Smith's low point, Sophia Taylor endured humiliation for him, feigning interest in a rich second-generation heir to obtain his money and resources. Later, when Ryan Smith's mother fell ill, she used up all her savings and secretly sold the jewelry and bags the rich heir had given her to raise the surgery funds. So as not to delay Ryan Smith's graduate entrance exams, she hired a top caregiver with money to take care of him, and she squeezed in visits amid her busy schedule until his mother recovered. Finally, Ryan Smith completed his studies and reappeared before his biological father in a respectable manner. At that time, Mr. Smith's 2 legitimate children had one dead and one crippled, and Ryan Smith became the sole heir of the Smith family, soaring from then on. And Sophia Taylor, who had supported and helped him all along, was naturally brought to his side and adored. Unfortunately, the resentful, rich, second-generation brat who was fattened up into success through Sophia Taylor's support was me. To me, my relationship with Sophia Taylor was a romance aimed at marriage. I never expected that in Sophia Taylor's eyes it was a bearing humiliation and hardship to achieve their great love. Ryan Smith, grateful for Sophia Taylor's sacrifices for him, of course did not forget the humiliation his girls suffered for his sake. The two of them colluded from inside and out to steal Johnson Corporation's secrets, and using the influence of the Smith family, one move forced Johnson Corporation into bankruptcy. I had just suffered the blow of losing my parents when I was secretly taken away by Ryan Smith's people, subjected to all kinds of abuse, and used as an outlet for Sophia Taylor's anger. Although I didn't know what grievance Sophia Taylor, whom I had pampered and loved like an ancestor, needed to vent. During one of the routine lessons, I was knocked down in the chaos, and the back of my head struck a sharp object hard. I know I won't survive. A sharp pain at the back of my head gradually went numb, and my consciousness finally sank into the abyss. But I am not willing to accept this. I believe I did nothing wrong. Why should I be made a stepping stone on their path to love? In a void of chaos, a tumultuous clamor surged toward me from afar. The sound grew closer and finally exploded beside my ear. I snapped back to my senses, as if waking from an endless nightmare. My arm was slapped hard, and a familiar voice practically shouted in my ear, Ethan, what are you spacing out for? What are you thinking about? I turned my head and saw Lucas Brown tilting his head, wearing the same dopey, puzzled expression. Lucas Brown is my childhood playmate, a friend I really grew up with, so close we could almost wear the same pair of pants. When the Johnson family was in trouble and I was being held by people of Ryan Smith, he ran around like a madman trying to save me. But someone tampered with the car. Both the car and the person were destroyed. He's a fool, single-minded, way too easy to be tricked. And now, he stands calmly in front of me, still that same heartless, carefree self. My eyes instantly burned with tears. Before I could react, I threw my arms around his shoulders and hauled his face right up to mine to study it closely. It really was him, alive, Lucas Brown. Lucas Brown looked bewildered, clumsily prying my hands away, his speech stammering. What are you doing? The beauty's still waiting for your answer. Why are you grabbing me? I let him go and glanced around the surroundings. This is a private room in a bar. It was noisy around us, and two youths dressed as servers stood before me. The girl was petite, with fair, tender skin and a pair of bright, sparkling eyes anxiously watching me. Her small hands kept tugging at the hem of her clothes. The boy was tall but thin, standing behind her. His complexion was ashen. My pupils contracted. Sophia Taylor, Ryan Smith. I would recognize these two even if they turned to ash. This scene in front of me was not unfamiliar. It was my first meeting with Sophia Taylor. My father built his business from nothing and earned a considerable fortune, and I, the only son of the Johnson family, was what many people called a second-generation rich. At a gathering with friends, a waiter accidentally spilled red wine all over me. The waiter went pale with fear, and a girl rushed out to stand in front of him and plead on his behalf, saying they were students working to earn tuition, that they would pay for the clothes but needed to do so in installments, and asking me to give them some leeway. My clothes were not cheap, and two students couldn't possibly cover the cost. I didn't intend to make a fuss with them, so I waved them off and let them go. Sophia Taylor, however, was persistent. She asked for my contact information and said she would pay for my clothes. I didn't take it seriously. I didn't expect that half a month later she would actually transfer money to me. Although it was only $1,000, she said it was her show of determination. I thought to myself that she was a girl with strong principles and resilience. I became interested in her. We started communicating more, and I was eventually drawn in by the relentless vitality she possessed. From then on, it was unstoppable. At first, my parents disapproved of my relationship with Sophia Taylor, but they yielded when they couldn't withstand my persistence. Instead, Sophia Taylor kept saying at times that her studies were important, at times that her career was important, making every excuse to avoid getting married. At the time, I thought she felt insecure about her family background and held some grudge, so I didn't want to pressure her. I didn't expect she was waiting for her first love to make something of himself and come ride in on a fine horse to marry her. And Ryan Smith only appeared in front of me twice during our relationship. Once was that first meeting, and the other time he offended someone and Sophia Taylor asked me for help, only saying they were classmates who got along well. Afterward, Ryan Smith came to thank me, his face full of gratitude. Breaking out of my memories, I quietly clenched my fist, a sharp pain spreading across my palm. Only then did I lucidly realize that I had been reborn, returned to the moment when I first met Sophia Taylor. I watched the anxious Sophia Taylor in front of me quietly, saying the same words as in my previous life. I can compensate you, but we're still students and don't have much money. I hope you can give us some leeway and allow us to pay in installments. Pay in installments. She spoke while sneaking glances at my expression. Though anxious, she was never fawning. I used to love her pride and self-respect, and I loved that indomitable spirit of hers. But my love for her was completely burned away in the last life. Seeing her again, all I felt was a bone-deep hatred. Sophia Taylor, I will make you taste the pain of betrayal too. I will make you struggle in the mud for the rest of your life, never to rise above it. I tugged the corner of my mouth and slowly opened it, revealing a smile. All right. On the way home, Lucas Brown insisted on squeezing into the same car with me, cheekily scooting up to me and saying, I thought you wouldn't make a fuss with those two servers. Did you really make them compensate? I gave him a sidelong glance. It's only right to compensate for damaging someone else's property at its value. What? Are you suddenly chivalrous? Lucas Brown quickly waved his hand. No way, that's not it. Isn't your eldest son, Ethan, always kind to others? If you ask me, you're doing the right thing. They ruined your clothes and should pay for them. It's just common sense, has nothing to do with rich or poor, and you don't owe them anything. He tugged at the dirty clothes on me with his hand, keeping the wet fabric from sticking to my skin, and clicked his tongue twice. I've seen you wear this outfit several times. You clearly like it. For someone to ruin it like this, what a clumsy waiter. He should pay you compensation for the emotional distress. I smiled and said nothing. Yeah, they should pay me for the emotional distress for my past life. Half a month later, Sophia Taylor did send me $1,000 and some words of apology. I tapped my finger to collect the money and replied with a period. In my past life, when I saw the money she sent, I found it somewhat laughable. I thought this young woman took things seriously in an interesting way. Not only did I refuse to take her little sum, I even said it's okay, telling her she didn't need to send money again. Now that I think about it, with people like Sophia Taylor, that kind of behavior is practically a neon sign on the forehead reading, "I'm a soft, fat sheep. Come slaughter me." In my previous life, Sophia Taylor always seemed to me like someone mired in muck, but resilient and unyielding. I gradually grew fond of her, and from beginning to end, gave her my utmost respect. Even later, when she was reluctant to marry, I didn't want to force my wishes on her. I wanted to wait until she was willing. Simply stupid to the extreme. This time I was so cold, yet she was far more warm than in the previous life, sending greetings now and then. Even if I ignored her, she would keep talking to herself a little. Although she always took the initiative to reach out, her words were measured, enough to remind me what sort of person she was without coming across as cheap. She was trying to bait me. I tapped the phone screen lightly with one finger, a smile tugging at my lips. The woman sitting across from me set down her coffee cup, her red lips curling into an alluring arc. Her eyes, made up to perfection, watched me with keen interest. "You don't usually ask me out alone. Could it be that you need me to help with something?" I lifted my eyes to the vibrant woman opposite me, my smile tinged with helplessness. In front of Chloe, there's no way I can hide any thoughts. Chloe Bell is the eldest daughter of the Bell family and Mr. Bell's only legitimate child. Her father was a philanderer. At home, the flag of family authority stood undisturbed, while outside colorful banners fluttered, resulting in a swarm of younger half-siblings. It was chaotic at first, but since she began to show her edge, in just a few years, she suppressed those mistresses and their children into submission. She firmly held the reins of Bell Corporation, and even her father had to watch his step around her. There's no denying she was an admirable woman. The circle was small. Everyone ran into each other sooner or later and knew quite a bit. Peers within the circle were all very obedient in her presence. The Bell family and the Johnsons were fairly close. The two of us were also quite close. In my previous life, when something happened to the Johnsons, she had tried to help, but the Smiths were powerful. At the time, the Johnsons were on the brink, not worth her risking her family fortune to save. So in the end, she had to back off and protect herself. Chloe Bell leaned back, relaxing her posture, and said, "Say it. You don't need to hide anything in front of me." I smiled helplessly. "I want to sponsor a student in your name, Chloe." That day, I talked with Chloe Bell for a long time. When she was leaving, she reached up and patted my shoulder, smiling recklessly. "Don't worry. This is your first time asking me for a favor. I'll definitely do it beautifully for you." I laughed and cried. I don't want others to know about this. After thinking it over, only Chloe can help me with this favor. I'll treat you to a meal later. She took her bag and stood up, giving me a Johnny back. "You said it. I'll make sure to rip you off later." 3 months later, at my alma mater's invitation, I returned to give a talk as an outstanding alumnus and saw Sophia Taylor again. The school she and Ryan Smith now attend is precisely my alma mater. Both of them were specially admitted as students from impoverished backgrounds. I saw her in the audience during my speech, but I paid her no attention. She was always smiling, radiating boundless vitality, as if no hardship could ever defeat her. I wanted to see whether, without my support this time, her vitality could still be so abundant. When I came out of the small auditorium, I indeed saw Sophia Taylor waiting outside. She walked up to me, her face showing unabashed surprise. "So it turns out, Mr. Ethan, you're my senior. What a coincidence." A short distance away, a small group had gathered, peering at the two of us, whispering to one another, their faces tinged with a hint of envy. It was easy to imagine that the topic of their conversation must have been related to us. Looking at Sophia Taylor's smile that seemed never to fade, I suddenly felt a bit nauseous. I couldn't understand how a vine that fed on other people's flesh and blood could bloom flowers that appeared pure and spotless. I sized her up, expression indifferent. "Who are you?" The smile on her face stiffened somewhat, and after a long while she spoke haltingly, "I'm Sophia Taylor." "Mr. Ethan, have you forgotten? I still haven't paid you back for the clothes." I said, "Oh," and nodded. "So when do you plan to pay back the money for the clothes?" Sophia Taylor could no longer keep smiling. The louder whispers around her made her uncomfortable, and after opening and closing her mouth several times, she finally managed to speak. I don't have that much money right now." I stepped aside and walked forward. "Then contact me when you have the money." A restrained sob came from behind, but I didn't look back. She's only a freshman now, barely maintaining her pride among classmates who are all rich or well off, lacking the confidence and composure money brings, and without the shrewdness and smoothness honed by the world. She cannot endure such embarrassment. In the previous life, when she came to see me, she told me she had given a lot for Ryan Smith. Her love was not wrong. But she forgot that their love had nothing to do with me. A love nourished by another's flesh and blood is itself a sin. I could sense her following me at a distance along the way, neither too near nor too far, but I paid her no mind until we left the campus and got into the car the assistant had brought. Only then did I turn my gaze to the window. A flashy red sports car was parked not far from the school gate. Ryan Smith jogged out from inside the campus, glanced left and right, opened the car door and got in, a trace of nervousness on his handsome face. The sports car sped away quickly. It was clearly there specifically to pick him up. I recognized that car. It's Chloe Bell's recent favorite, cherished dearly and driven wherever she goes. I hadn't expected Chloe to go to such lengths. I didn't think she'd personally take the wheel. She was different from me. As the actual power holder of Bell Corporation, she was usually very busy. I had thought she would send a trusted person from her side to handle this matter. In the rearview mirror, without the scenery moving backward, I saw half of Sophia Taylor's pale face appear at the corner, not far behind. Good. She finally couldn't laugh anymore. In the evening, Chloe Bell called me and got straight to the point. "The fish has taken the bait." I laughed. "Chloe, you're amazing." She laughed too. For someone like me who's used to crawling and scrambling among a bunch of old foxes to try to scheme against a student, I feel like I'd be picking on him. "I'm doing this for you, but don't you dare tell anyone. I can't afford a lose face." Only after I promised repeatedly did I ask, "What do you think of him?" She drew out a long then a rhythmic tapping of her fingertips on the table could be heard. Perhaps because it was evening, her voice carried a hint of relaxed languor. On the surface, seems pretty innocent, driven, even a bit inspirational, but you can tell he has some scheming, a fair amount of ambition, not someone content with the status quo. I raised an eyebrow slightly. "Oh, sound impressive. I heard he's quite popular at school. If not for his poor family background, he'd surely be a big shot." Chloe Bell smiled again. "Compared to his peers, he is indeed not ordinary, but to me he's just so. People like that won't pass up any chance to climb higher. Probably an ungrateful snake you can't tame." She stretched as if yawning. Then her voice dropped a few tones as she spoke again. "Once you see through the nature of someone like that, good looks won't attract you anymore. They might fool young girls, but I have no use for him. He still pretends to be an innocent young man in front of me. It's really painful to watch. We're both thousand-year foxes. What's he trying to play? A Liao Jai tale with me? If he wants to fish me, he's too inexperienced." I couldn't help laughing out loud. "You've done too much to help me with this, Chloe. It seems it won't be settled with just a meal." Chloe Bell's voice sounded very pleased. "You're sensible. But rest assured, given our friendship, I won't fleece you. Tomorrow my assistant will go to your place to discuss a cooperation. If Ethan, you could have your subordinates take care of her a bit, I'd be satisfied." I understood and replied, "Of course. The people you send out are all decisive and efficient. Who would dare be negligent?" She laughed brightly over there, chatted a few more sentences, then hung up. In his previous life, Ryan Smith did succeed, but everything he gained was because of women. If he truly loved Sophia Taylor, even if he was obsessed with rising to the top, he wouldn't have used the woman he loved as a bridge. In his previous life, Sophia Taylor said she didn't want intimacy before marriage, and I was willing to respect her wishes. But what if I wasn't willing to respect her? How would she cope then? Later, when Ryan Smith went after the Johnsons, there wasn't that much romance either. It was more an angry attempt to erase a dark past, and a token of loyalty to prove his maneuvering skills to Mr. Smith. Someone who can even give up his own girlfriend to climb higher. How could he be a Casanova? He's nothing but a self-serving opportunist using the guise of love and willing to use any means. As Chloe Bell said, he might be able to dupe a love-above-all girl like Sophia Taylor into giving him everything, but he'll never be able to handle a rational, composed woman like Chloe Bell. In Chloe Bell's eyes, romance is always just a seasoning of life. The only thing she truly cares about is the power she tightly grasps in her hand. She always assesses the situation calmly. Before making any decision, she first ensures she stands in an invincible position. Just like in her past life, just like now. The cooperation with Bell Corporation went smoothly. Because I voluntarily conceded some profit, Chloe Bell was very pleased. Even her high heels seemed to have a breeze when she walked. During this period, my father was gradually handing over control of Johnson Corporation to me, and I became busy. Only after a long time did I remember those two, Sophia Taylor. Looking at the materials the assistant brought, I couldn't help shaking my head. Ever since Sophia Taylor tried to start a conversation and was brutally met with "I don't know you," our classmates couldn't help but mock her. I heard some busybodies even posted the incident on the campus wall, so wherever she goes, she's ridiculed. What crushed her even more was the rift between her and Ryan Smith. No wonder. Sophia Taylor made no progress with me and even became a joke, while Ryan Smith secured a sponsor and made rapid advances with that person. In this way, Sophia Taylor not only failed to be his support, but instead became a stumbling block. Chloe Bell is different from me. She wasn't sincere. The more she played hard to get with Ryan Smith, the more insecure he became, fearing to offend her. Before I knew it, the roles of hunter and prey had completely reversed. Whether it was Sophia Taylor facing me or Ryan Smith facing Chloe Bell, both presented as single personas. They wouldn't act affectionately at school, and almost no one knew they were together. Otherwise, in my previous life, they couldn't have hidden it from me so completely. But they couldn't pull the same covert tricks on me as they did in my previous life. For one thing, Chloe Bell had already been on guard thanks to my warning. For another, I had long since gotten a clear read on their every move this time. And in my past life, Ryan Smith could calmly sweet-talk Sophia Taylor into dating me to siphon off funds and resources for him, because he was the mastermind and the one benefiting behind the scenes. But if you flip it, when Sophia Taylor truly puts her heart into Ryan Smith, she can't stand her boyfriend flirting with other women. Ryan Smith definitely has feelings for her, but those feelings clearly don't compare to his ambitions for the future. Sophia Taylor couldn't catch me, and she lost her value to Ryan Smith. She also harbored resentment about the relationship between Ryan Smith and Chloe Bell. A few little tantrums Ryan Smith could tolerate and coax, but over time he grew impatient with her. Moreover, her presence would affect Chloe Bell's impressions of him. As seen in the previous life, Ryan Smith was someone who would stop at nothing to achieve class mobility. No one could block his rise, not even a beloved girlfriend who had once kept each other warm in the darkness. He's probably in a frenzied state right now, clinging desperately to the chance to climb upward, and so he'd take on any obstacle, God or demon. So he unhesitatingly chose Chloe Bell, who could bring him money and status, over the worthless Sophia Taylor. It was said that Sophia Taylor cried her heart out, mentally distraught, in a state of utter despair, and even ended up being taken to the hospital. Clearly, being so easily betrayed and abandoned by the boyfriend she loved more than anything was a devastating blow to her, as if the sky had fallen. After being discharged, her spirits remained very low, an authentic picture of someone who has lost the will to live. I chuckled softly. My beloved wife, the real show is just beginning. Why are you already giving up? My father gradually entered a semi-retired state and handed Johnson Corporation entirely to me. When attending banquets, now, I was no longer just a younger member of the Johnson family, but represented the family as its head when dealing with gentlemen of the same social standing. At the birthday banquet of Elder Miller, a senior in the circle, I saw Dylan Smith, who is Ryan Smith's older half-brother. Mr. and Mrs. Smith's marriage was a business match. A year after their wedding, Mrs. Smith was weakened by giving birth to twin sons and never fully recovered her health. In the previous life, the two brothers, Dylan Smith and Nathan Smith, were in the same car on the way home when they had an accident. The elder brother, Dylan Smith, born a few minutes earlier, instinctively tried to protect his brother and died on the spot, while the younger brother, Nathan Smith, though he clung to life, became a high-level paraplegic. Mrs. Smith could not bear the blow. Her body, already weakened by chronic illness, collapsed and she passed away within days, not even surviving until her younger son woke from his coma. One of the Smith brothers died and the other was left disabled. Mrs. Smith was gone too. When Ryan Smith returned to the Smith household, he met no resistance. Before I died in my previous life, I even heard Ryan Smith say that Mr. Smith intended to legitimize his mother, so Ryan could have a proper status and shake off being an illegitimate child. What a coincidence. Just as Ryan Smith finished his studies, the Smith brothers met with misfortune, conveniently clearing the way for Ryan to take their place. Everything fell into his lap while everyone slept. I couldn't help but suspect there might be something fishy going on. I held my wine glass and walked toward the mild-mannered, courteous, impeccably poised Dylan Smith. The Smith family has developed rapidly in recent years. The two brothers, who have a natural keen nose for business, have contributed greatly. Many of the innovative measures were proposed and implemented by them, and they have a high reputation within Smith Corporation. It's ironic that their excellence ended up serving as a wedding dress for Ryan Smith. One wonders if Dylan Smith, were he aware in the afterlife, wouldn't be angered to death all over again. And the current Dylan Smith was in the prime of his vigor. The handsome young man shook my hand lightly and exchanged a few polite business pleasantries. The Smiths' main business direction doesn't overlap with the Johnsons'. They're not competitors and aren't particularly useful contacts, so there's little interaction between them. But Dylan Smith is a smiling tiger. Even backed by the Smith family, he wouldn't openly offend anyone. I didn't say much to him, just chatted casually with a relaxed demeanor. We both came away with a good impression of each other. After that, we got in touch more often. We didn't touch on business, but we were loosely friends, occasionally meeting up and able to talk for a while. Lucas Brown got close to me and was a bit of a handful. Whenever I had free time, he clung to me wanting to hang out. I couldn't shake him off. Along with Chloe Bell, whom I had intentionally introduced, the few of us privately formed a strange little group. When we met, we tacitly avoided talking about work and didn't go to raucous places to fool around. We just relaxed and chatted or did some light, quiet recreational activities. With Lucas Brown around, you never have to worry about the mood dying down. He's a real character and a bit of stress relief. Dylan Smith has taken quite an interest in our little circle. At first, he was only passively invited, but then he started organizing a few gatherings himself, and recently he even brought his brother along. He's the sort of person who's a smiling tiger. He looks gentle, but he's actually very guarded and protects his brother fiercely. The fact that he was able to bring his brother shows that, in his mind, we're at least safe, harmless, and fit to be friends rather than just acquaintances on the surface. During a fishing trip, Chloe Bell looked at Nathan Smith's profile and suddenly smiled. I've always thought Nathan looked familiar, couldn't place who he looked like, but seeing his side profile today, I finally remembered. Nathan looks so much like a student I sponsor from this angle. Although the Smith brothers are twins, they don't look very alike. Overall, you can tell they're from the same family, but the older brother, Dylan Smith, has slightly softer facial features and resembles their mother more, while the younger brother, Nathan Smith, has brow and bone structure more like Mr. Smith. Nathan Smith turned around, his smile bright. Oh, Chloe, you sponsor a student. Chloe Bell glanced at me before smiling warmly at Nathan Smith. Yes, a poor student. His household has only a frail, often ill mother, and he's a good student. She touched her smooth chin, smiling with some significance. Someone who knows how to seize opportunities, quite ambitious. Everyone in the circle is sharp. When words are put that clearly, it means they aren't one to keep quiet. Dylan Smith also smiled faintly. Then Chloe, you still have to be careful. Don't get bitten by the wolf cub you raise. Chloe Bell remained leisurely in posture. It's the little wolf cubs that are interesting. They can pretend, can be endearing, and can go all out. They're pretty good as a life condiment, if someday they really can't be tamed. She looked at her newly done nails in the sunlight, smiling softly. Break his legs and throw him out. If he wants to step on me to rise, he's not qualified. I smiled but stayed silent. Ryan Smith himself, of course, wasn't qualified, but if he could still borrow the Smith family's clout in the future, then he would be. So I had to cut off his path. Lucas Brown listened for a long time, then finally butted in with a wink and said, If it's something, Chloe, you can't bear to throw away, it must be pretty good looking. Chloe Bell smiled and tapped his forehead, saying nothing. Lucas Brown went on to say to himself, also, since it looks like Nathan, it definitely can't be ugly. I raised my hand and slapped out, shut up. Dylan Smith's smile faded a little. He could let other things go, but he was especially protective of this fellow countryman younger brother. From Chloe Bell's tone, it was clear that the student was more than just a sponsored poor student. Descriptions like pleasant and easygoing could hardly have been more suggestive. Having someone so unbecoming brought up alongside his brother made him feel a deep sense of discomfort. Nathan Smith himself didn't really react, but he was rather uninterested. He'd seen plenty of people who would sell anything to climb up. I blinked and, as if casually, said, "You're being so mysterious. I'm curious now. Chloe, do you have any photos?" At that, Dylan Smith looked over too. He wanted to see just how much it resembled. Chloe Bell really did have one. She didn't hide it either. She directly took out her phone, tapped it a few times, and handed it over. In an instant, several heads leaned in, forming a circle above the phone. On the phone was a side profile photo. The young man's features were handsome, his skin fair and clear, looking like a neat, clean big boy. Dylan Smith's brow knitted tightly, his lips pressed almost into a straight line. He really did resemble Nathan Smith, more like him than his own full brother. Nathan Smith was also a little surprised. He really does look like me. Dylan Smith didn't want to hear him say that, but he couldn't stop his younger brother from speaking, so his frown deepened even more. Lucas Brown looked at the photo, then at Nathan Smith, and also exclaimed, "Well, looking at it this way, they really do look alike. What is this? Half-brothers who have never met." Dylan Smith's gaze shifted slightly, and his right hand gently rotated the ring on the index finger of his left hand. I tapped the back of Lucas Brown's head again. "Shut up." Lucas Brown clutched his head, feeling extremely aggrieved. But it's true. This matter was like a small interlude. It passed and was never mentioned again by anyone. Lucas Brown was unconcerned. Chloe Bell smiled without speaking. I also touched on it briefly and said no more. About a month later, I heard news that something had gone wrong with the Smith family, and it caused quite a stir. Chloe Bell called again, opening with a sigh. "Ethan, I really underestimated you." She's extremely smart and was involved the whole time. With the Smith family changing and the sequence of events, it wouldn't be hard for her to guess my ulterior motive in all this. My voice solemn. "Chloe, dragging you into this was my mistake, but Chloe Bell sighed again, interrupting me. "I know. I'm the most suitable person. You chose me to help you with this favor because you trust one won't betray you. I'm not blaming you. I just don't understand what could make you take such a risk." I rubbed my brow and said softly, "With you, Chloe, making a move, I wouldn't exactly be taking a risk. It's not that I don't want to tell you. It's just..." She sighed again. "All right, if you don't want to say, I won't pressure you. You're not someone who acts rashly without a plan. You have your own considerations. I'm just asking, have you achieved the goal you were aiming for? Have you reached it?" A small warmth stirred in me. I replied quietly, "Almost." "How much do you know about the Smith family's current situation, Chloe?" Chloe Bell seemed to let out a soft laugh, her tone returning to the same lazy cadence she used when she spoke to me before. "What I know, you probably already know too." After Dylan Smith saw the photo at my place last time, he became suspicious and started an investigation when he returned. As expected, he exposed Ryan Smith as that illegitimate son. Mrs. Smith's health may be poor, but she acts decisively. She contacted her natal family to put pressure on Mr. Smith and demanded a divorce. Both Smith young masters fully sided with their mother, and now the Smith family is on the verge of splitting. I closed my eyes slightly. If this marriage can end in divorce, even a powerful family like the Smiths will suffer severe damage. It's just unclear whether Mrs. Smith, after weighing the situation, will choose to endure it quietly. Chloe Bell replied quickly. The possibility of her enduring is slim. Mrs. Smith's background is at least on par with Mr. Smith's. She was a strong woman in her youth. Ryan Smith is barely younger than the Smith brothers, and Mr. Smith treated her so badly, she couldn't possibly swallow that indignity. This time she dared to speak out directly, which clearly meant she had a family backing her. Their divorce would be a devastating blow to the Smiths, but not necessarily to Mrs. Smith, especially since both sons stood behind her. What could she possibly be afraid of? Indeed, Mrs. Smith had been ruthless and decisive in her youth, which was why Ryan Smith and his mother had been kept so tightly in the dark. The son of the respectable Mr. Smith had somehow ended up a poor student who couldn't even afford tuition, all because Mr. Smith was afraid that Mrs. Smith would discover his infidelity. To avoid her finding out, he didn't dare keep a mistress or even secretly support anyone. It was physical frailty that was Mrs. Smith's weakness, and for her, as a mother, her sons were her lifeline. Both sons getting into trouble at once would be a devastating blow to her, destroying her in an instant, which made her seem easier to deal with. Now her child was still standing safely behind her. She was, of course, still the decisive woman who would never be weak or bullied. Being a woman herself, Chloe Bell saw this kind of thing more clearly than I did. Sure enough, Mrs. Smith was resolute. She practically forced Mr. Smith to divorce, then quickly completed the division of assets and walked away efficiently. She not only took nearly half of Smith Corporation's fortune, she also took the younger son, Nathan Smith. Dylan Smith stayed at Smith Corporation and took over the mess left after Smith Corporation split. Mr. Smith was furious. It was said he fell ill and was hospitalized for treatment. After some time, the Smith brothers returned to our little circle again. Dylan Smith looked as usual. Their parents' rift didn't seem to have much effect on him. Nathan Smith, on the other hand, was a bit wilted, always absent-minded. I didn't hold back. I asked Dylan Smith about the Smith family and his plans. Dylan Smith only smiled faintly. What other plans could there be? My surname is Smith. It's only natural I take over the Smith family business. With Nathan on my mom's side, I'm not worried. I frowned and said, now that Ryan Smith has been exposed publicly as a blood member of the Smith family, he's bound to want a share of Smith Corporation. Dylan Smith's expression didn't change. All he and his disreputable mother can lean on is my dad, but my dad doesn't have time to deal with them right now. Even if Smith Corporation is a far cry from its former glory now, it's not something he deserves to meddle with. Indeed, the turmoil at Smith Corporation this time was a mess Dylan Smith had to clean up. He wouldn't miss the chance to give Smith Corporation an internal overhaul. By the time Mr. Smith is discharged from the hospital, Smith Corporation might no longer be his domain. I flicked the cigarette in my hand, looked at him faintly through the drifting smoke, and said, your dad doesn't have time to manage things right now. He might decide to step in someday. Ryan Smith is not someone to underestimate. Don't let him grow unchecked. Dylan Smith's eyes flickered, and he looked up at me. I reached out, stubbed out the cigarette, and chuckled softly. His return to the Smith family may not have been dignified, but he still has inheritance rights. If he gains power, it won't be good news for either you or Nathan. Dylan Smith lowered his eyes and repeated quietly, inheritance rights. After that, he didn't speak for a long time. I didn't know what he was thinking. In a previous life, Ryan Smith was brought back by Mr. Smith only after finishing graduate school, and back then he was far more scheming and calculating than he is now. This time he learned his origins in advance, so he would naturally be ecstatic and would find it hard to remain as steady and cautious as in his previous life. Dylan Smith acted more ruthlessly than I had imagined. Mr. Smith was seriously ill and had been hospitalized. Naturally, this new son, Ryan Smith, had to go show some filial piety. But when he reached the hospital room door one time, he ran into Mr. Smith's assistant. The papers in the assistant's hands fell. He crouched down to help pick them up, but among the pile of documents, he saw a will. It was just a draft, with a few places marked, obviously still needing revision. In the flash of a moment, Ryan Smith secretly tucked the will away. After sending the assistant off, he hurried into a restroom stall to take a look. He had never benefited from Mr. Smith since childhood, never lived a good life, and had never felt even the slightest affection from Mr. Smith toward him as a son. Once clothed in silk and satin, still unfamiliar with the shift in status, the inferiority engraved in his bones had not yet faded, and he instinctively felt this would not be favorable to him. Sure enough, it showed that all of Mr. Smith's property and shares would be divided equally between Dylan Smith and Nathan Smith, while he, Ryan Smith, and his mother were only left a house and a very small sum of money. Ryan Smith trembled with anger. People are not afraid of not getting something, only of getting it and then losing it quickly. If he had never known his background, he could still have planned his future step by step. But now that he had clearly risen to become the young master of the Smith family overnight and yet couldn't reap any benefits, his mentality was hard to keep steady. After all, he was still very young. He had no feelings for Mr. Smith. In this moment, the only plan he could think of was, make Mr. Smith die. In any case, everyone knew Mr. Smith was gravely ill, so his death wouldn't be unexpected. As long as Mr. Smith died before making a will, then by virtue of being a son of the Smith family, he would have inheritance rights just like Dylan Smith and Nathan Smith. Dead men don't speak, and they certainly don't make unfair wills. The situation was urgent. Once the assistant returned, he would soon discover the will was missing, and he didn't have much time to think. Ryan Smith shook as he tore the paper in his hands into pieces, then flushed them down the drain with a grim face before opening the door and striding out. Dylan Smith watched Ryan Smith's back disappear at the ward door with cold eyes, a mocking smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. The next day, Smith Corporation was rocked by another earth-shattering scandal following the divorce split. The newly discovered illegitimate son, Ryan Smith, took advantage of a moment when no one was looking to sneak into Mr. Smith's hospital room and attempt to murder his father, and was caught red-handed. With both eyewitnesses and physical evidence, Ryan Smith had no room to argue and was immediately taken away. The shock sent Mr. Smith's condition into decline. He became increasingly unwell and hardly coherent. The day I received the news, I drank a little alone and stood on the balcony staring blankly at the city's nightscape. With Dylan Smith's methods, it would be very difficult for Ryan Smith to come out alive. If the one she loves is in such a tragic state, would Sophia Taylor be even more inconsolable? I was lost in wild thoughts when urgent knocking sounded at the door. This is a property under my name, good location, decorated to my taste. I like a lot. In my previous life, after I got together with Sophia Taylor, we lived here, agreeing that we'd buy a new villa as our marital home when we married. The villa was bought, but I never got to live in it. Tonight, I wanted to be alone and quiet. Inexplicably, I came here again, only to be met by an unexpected visitor. Sophia Taylor was wearing an extremely simple white dress, her forehead beaded with fine sweat, her face flushed, breathing heavily as if she had run a long distance. The moment she saw me, tears burst forth like a breached dam, and she rushed straight into my arms. I was bewildered and pushed her away. "Are you sick?" Sophia Taylor glared at me with reddened, beautiful eyes, tears still streaming down. "Ethan." My whole body jolted, the blood in me freezing. In this life, she shouldn't call me Ethan. Ethan was the name she used for me after we became a couple in the past life. Seeing me remain silent, her tears flowed faster, and her words came in fits and starts. "Ethan, you're back too, aren't you? You're back. You got revenge on Ryan. Ethan, I was wrong. I shouldn't have believed Ryan's insincere coaxing and stolen your company's files. I ruined you. I know I was wrong. I know. Only you treated me the best. Will you forgive me? This time I will truly cherish you and won't hurt you again." Hearing her incoherent words, my emotions gradually calmed. I looked closely at her disheveled, tear-streaked face and smiled softly. "What? Didn't you and your darling first love finally get through the hardships together? Did he treat you badly after I died?" Sophia Taylor burst into sobs. "He lied to me. He never loved me. Not long after you left, he was involved with the Miller family's eldest daughter in a messy way, and even said he would marry her. I want to find him. He even hit me. He said." She seemed overwhelmed, slowly sank to the floor, covering her face with both hands as tears kept slipping through her fingers. "He said I'd followed you for 7 years and had been ruined by you, that I'm a worn-out shoe. He said he's the heir of the Smith family and, of course, must marry someone of equal status. There's no way he could want me." The slight girl sobbed until her shoulders shook, crying out, "He's a monster. You don't know, those 2 young masters of the Smith family getting into trouble had something to do with him. It was a trap he and Uncle Smith set up together. He told me himself that Uncle Smith felt those 2 sons were closer to their mother and their maternal family, that they were beyond saving, so he gave them up and welcomed Ryan back. They were so ruthless, so terrifying. He beat me. Wouldn't let me go. He locked me up, kept me locked up for a long time. When I ran away, I panicked and lost my footing and fell down the stairs. As expected, things were pretty much what I thought. The Smith brothers' accident was by no means accidental. Mr. Smith knew about Ryan Smith's existence and situation from beginning to end. Ryan Smith was his second choice, and also a trump card. He was observing, waiting, If Ryan Smith proved useless, then he would never learn his origins, spending his life struggling at the bottom. On the other hand, if Ryan Smith succeeded, the Smith family's two brothers, who for some reason were distant toward him, would get into trouble, and Ryan Smith would return to the Smith family as an easily controlled puppet. What a poisonous heart. What a cruel father. I looked at Sophia Taylor calmly, feeling it hard to stir any emotions within me. I could have guessed that Ryan Smith wouldn't marry her in my past life, but I didn't expect Ryan Smith to be so heartless. Sophia Taylor truly wronged me, but she indeed gave Ryan Smith everything she had. It would not be an exaggeration to say her gratitude was as heavy as a mountain. Even if it was for his future and he wouldn't marry her, he still shouldn't have treated a girl who sincerely loved him that way. But then again, Ryan Smith didn't actually love anyone. The only person he loved was himself. He had succeeded in becoming the heir of the Smith family. So Sophia Taylor naturally became useless and instead turned into an unwelcome reminder of his past. Her existence constantly reminded him of that shameful time when he could only survive by relying on women. So it's no wonder he couldn't tolerate her. But why? Why should she, after crashing into a brick wall and realizing the road ahead is blocked, turn back to find me? Am I some kind of garbage dump? So I didn't hesitate to throw Sophia Taylor out, and when she kept knocking on the door, I called the property management to have her removed. For a long time after that, Sophia Taylor still schemed to see me, but she never succeeded. I didn't want to see her. After that, she stopped coming. Long after, I happened to hear a news report. A female student at a well-known university had jumped to her death, leaving no last words. I was silent for a long time, then calmly turned my gaze back to the documents before me and steadily signed my name. Lucas Brown had half his body sprawled across my desk, still chattering on about the fragility of life and the stress tolerance of today's young people. I looked at his seemingly non-stop mouth and couldn't help but retort, "Is your mouse lease about to expire? Do you have to make such a desperate effort to use it up?" Lucas Brown's jabbering stopped abruptly. He looked at me with pleading eyes. "Are you annoyed with me? Do I bother you?" I raised a hand to cover my face, sighed deeply, and after a long moment gave a helpless laugh. "No, go ahead." He immediately brightened, his mood shifting quickly, and he went on prattling. "Oh well, alive and able to prattle? That's pretty good.